These 2 billion Kenya shillings, or roughly 20 million US dollars, might be the easiest money that KCB has ever made. KCB Capital, which is affiliated to KCB, of course, was one of the two brokerage firms which were advising the two entities which were exchanging shares in a deal where the Kenyan government did cede or sell 15% of its stake in Safaricom to Vodacom Group. This deal was completed this week on Tuesday, and in fact, it is today that the National Treasury is expecting that cash from the Vodacom Group, 204 billion Kenya shilling deal, where the government of Kenya did sell 15% of its stake in Safaricom, therefore reducing its holding from 35% to 20%. And with that, the current holding in Safaricom is 55% by Vodacom Group, making it the majority shareholder, 25% by the public. And given the government this week released 15% of its holding, is now at 20% shareholding. Behind the scenes, what most people don't know is that brokerage companies or investment banks were also involved in this deal, because typically such kind of big deals entail involving investment firms. And the two firms which were involved is KCB Capital, which was the advisor of the government of Kenya, and SBG Holdings, which is of course an affiliate of Stanbic Bank, and it was an advisor to the Vodacom Group. These two brokerage firms did make some clean money, guys. And I'm saying so because look at it this way. KCB wasn't selling any Safaricom airtime. KCB wasn't operating M-Pesa. In fact, KCB wasn't selling any small units of products to any consumers out there. It made clean money from a single advisory deal, whereby there was a block sale of shares worth 204 billion. And we're talking about over 6 billion shares of Safaricom were transacted in a single block transaction on Tuesday at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. From that particular exchange, KCB Capital got a commission of 1%, because the structuring of that deal was that each of the investment firms or those brokerage companies, basically KCB Capital and SGB Holdings, were to each get 1%. Therefore, we are talking about 1% of over 200 billion Kenya shillings being 2 billion shillings. And that is how KCB made a very cool and easy 2 billion Kenya shilling. Of course, that is their main business. I'm saying easy money because this is one of the biggest corporate transactions in recent history in Kenya. And it isn't every day where an advisory company, in this context an investment firm, which was advising the government of Kenya, can make such a huge amount of commission. But they did make it. 1% of 200 billion Kenya shillings is 2 billion. And that is how KCB Capital made 2 billion Kenya shillings from this particular deal. Guys, what do you think about that? Do you think that was a killing from KCB's end? Because of course, we're talking about KCB making that particular commission and also SGB Holding making the same commission of 1%, because each of these two entities was advising each of the parties to that particular transaction. And beyond that, what do you think about the deal where the government of Kenya sold 15% of its holding to the Vodacom Group? Do you think that's a good deal for Kenya? Comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about that? And also, what lesson do you learn from all this? I think the very first and big lesson to learn is that in finance, it is interesting how money is made. People out there think that money has to be made by selling a given product, going out there to hustle big time, and selling individual units of many products for you to make money. Sometimes you can make money from just a single big deal. And in fact, make stupid money. Case in point, what KCB Capital just did. It made a cool 2 billion Kenya shillings from a single deal. That is the power of investment banking, the power of some factions under finance. Because making 2 billion from a single deal is not a mean feat. And that tells you sometimes in finance, the biggest of monies are made through advisory. And that is why even, for example, you see investment banks out there exist. They make money through brokerage of deals. They make money through advising potential investors on different things, whether it is securities to acquire, how to minimize their risks, you name it. That's why we see even a good number of banks out there have brokerage entities tied to them. Case in point, these two particular entities I've spoken about, KCB Capital and SBG Holdings, which are entities tied to commercial banks. They are doing advisory, they are doing investment banking to ensure the banks don't leave money on the table. Because if there is an entity out there, whether it's government, a company which is looking to do restructuring, which is looking to do a big business when it comes to trading their securities, these investment entities are at hand to support. What do you think about this? Have you personally worked with investment companies before? How was your experience? I'm pretty sure in case you're taking part in trading of stocks, in case you're taking part in trading of bonds, chances are you have worked with an investment bank. Which one have you worked with? Comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts. Which investment bank have you worked with? Which brokerage company have you worked with? What was their commission? Did they make a percentage of your income or even of your capital? Comment down below. I want to hear your experience. But then again, look at it this way. If you are advising someone to sell a particular asset, you are entitled to a commission. And that is given in all the areas in finance. Case in point, if, for example, you are a sales agent or a broker, assisting someone, for example, sell their car, assisting someone, for example, sell their house, it is typically expected you're going to make a commission. And even when you look at it objectively, the commission made by KCB Capital is on the low end. Because, for example, in real estate, we typically say those agents make somewhere between 2% to 4% of the property value upon execution. So, KCB making only 1% of the deal value is in fact on the low end. Yes, the amount looks very big, but it is on the low end. 1% of the 200 billion Kenya shilling. That's some cool money. In case you are in the shoe of the government of Kenya, which brokerage or advisory firms or investment bank would you pick to support you with a particular deal? Do you think KCB is or was the best option for the government of Kenya? Comment down below. And beyond that, what do you think about this particular business model where investment banks are making money off transactions or deals? What do you think about that? Do you think it is a good business model? And most importantly, in case you have also been a broker, share with us, what is the biggest commission you've ever earned from a single deal? Have you made money from acting like a broker on a sale of any particular asset out there? If you have, comment down below, share with us. How much did you make? Was it awesome money for you? I'm keen to hear your thoughts, guys. Cheers, and you stay tuned for additional amazing videos next time.